mobile population assignment, which is actually the title of the project, is on the socioeconomic characteristics of mobile population in Ethiopia, and our client for this project is the World Bank Group. And just to give a very brief background about the project, the mobile populations and the agro-pastoralists are among the hardest to reach and least served populations worldwide. And it's difficult to capture these communities in household surveys because of several factors, one of which is the high degree of mobility of these populations over remote terrains, and also the fluid domestic arrangements, and also the cultural barriers are among the factors that limit the conventional surveys to cover these communities. And most surveys, such as the demographic and health surveys, they are based on a census-based sampling frames, and it's really difficult to capture these communities on such surveys. So considering this, and also just to design mechanisms on how to reach the mobile populations, the World Bank Group has released a call for proposal, and Frontieri has applied for that. And in this project, the main objective was, just to obtain a more representative socioeconomic data of the mobile populations in Ethiopia, to better understand the major problems, and also, to understand their livelihood services, and also the provision of the public service in this community, so as to design intervention mechanisms. So this project has covered 4 regions of Ethiopia, which are predominated by mobile pastoralists and agro-pastoralists, and these regions include the Somali region, the Afar, Oromia, and the southern nations and nationalities people, and also the newly established southwestern region of Ethiopia. And in this study, the approach that we followed, we had both qualitative and quantitative surveys. And in the quantitative survey, we had to collect data from 213 clusters, and within these 213 clusters, we're supposed to collect 1,917 household surveys, and also 213 community surveys. And also the qualitative data, was collected from 20 primary sampling units or clusters, where 60 focus group discussions has been conducted. That means 3 focus group discussion has been conducted per cluster. And just at the beginning, the data collection was actually based on 160 clusters, and also 50 clusters for the qualitative data. But with the request of the client, we have increased for the quantitative survey from 160 to 213, and also we have reduced for the qualitative from 50 to 20 clusters. And the other important point in this project is the data collection, obviously, which is an important part of the project. And in this data collection process, we have taken serious attention in recruiting our field data collectors, training those data collectors to clearly understand the objectives of the study, and also the modes of the data collection process. And also we have undertaken a pilot testing, and after doing all this, we had a debriefing session and then the field team were deployed to their respective field sites. And during the field data collection also, we had a very regular follow-up and supervision to support the field staffs, and we had the Telegram group and direct call just to follow the data collection process. So I think this is briefly about the overall process of the project. Unique experiences or practices that we have implemented in this project, one is the nature of the sampling units by itself. Now, unlike other socioeconomic surveys, the primary sampling units were clusters, not waradas or qabeles. So within these clusters, there are also several hamlet points, which are center points for the collection of these household surveys. And as I mentioned earlier, 4 regions within the country were selected for this purpose, where there are high mobile populations and agropastoral communities, and to collect these representative samples from these mobile populations within these regions, what we call the random geographic cluster sampling units were considered. And these random geographic cluster sampling units were the primary sampling units for this project. And these clusters, they may fall, they are below a warada, and these clusters, they may fall within 1 or 2 qabeles within a warada, and they have several hamlets within them. And the geographic information system has been widely implemented in this project. So this is one important unique feature of the project from the nature of the sampling frame. And the second unique feature of this project is the data collection was assisted with application of technologies. Specifically in this project, we have applied the MAPS.me application, which guides the field data collectors to reach the specified clusters. And in doing this, we have prepared shape files of the clusters, and the KML files of the hamlets were prepared, and they were loaded into the tablets of our field staff, and then they were integrated with the MAPS.me application. So the data collectors, when they want to go to a certain cluster, so they will click on that specific cluster, and the MAPS.me application will guide them to reach that specified cluster. So that is one important application in this project. So for doing this also, we have widely used the application of the ArcGIS software in putting the shape files of the specified clusters, and also just guiding our field staff. And the other important unique feature of this project is, because of the applications that we used, our field staff are restricted to work within a delineated boundary. So they cannot go out of the cluster where they are supposed to collect samples from, because they will be guided by the GIS application or the Geographic Information System application. So when they move outside the cluster, so the MAPS.me application, which is integrated in their tablet, will tell them as they are outside of the cluster, so they cannot collect samples outside the specified cluster. So they are forced to focus only on those clusters which are given them with a delineated boundaries. So these were just the unique features or practices that we implemented in a mobile population project. It was not easy to implement this project actually, and it was, I think, a project where we had taken a lot of lessons and where we had a lot of experiences, and this definitely will help us, just in implementing similar projects in the future. And one of the major challenge in implementing this project was, since we are given clusters, randomly selected clusters from the World Bank group, and just when it comes to the ground, just the clusters were remote. They're just very remote, and some of the clusters were inaccessible. And even, once our field staffs reach to the clusters, there are some clusters where there is no settlement, and some clusters have few households below the expected number of households to be interviewed. So if the number of households are fewer than the required number, like in one cluster we have to interview 9 households, so that means if we have households below 9, then we cannot undertake interview or survey within that cluster, because we have to select randomly the household. So just our staff, they will do household listing in the first day, and then once they get enough number of households within a specific cluster, they will do random selection of the households, and then they will undertake samples. So if clusters have less number of households, or if they even don't have households, then our field staff are forced to leave that cluster and then search for another given cluster. And the other major challenge, especially in relation to less number of households within clusters and also non-availability of households, was the current drought, which significantly affected populations in Somali region and the Oromia regions of the country. So because of that, there were several clusters where there were no settlements. And the other challenge is some clusters are found at the borders or within the boundaries of other bordering countries. Like we have faced this in Afar region, where there were some clusters which fall between the borders of Ethiopia and Eritrea, and also in Oromia region, some clusters fall between the borders of Kenya and Ethiopia, the same in southern nations, and in Somali region we had some clusters that fall at the borders of Somali region of Ethiopia and the Somaliland. So because of this, and also because of security issues, our field staff are forced to leave those clusters and move to other clusters. And the other issue or the other challenge was long distance of the hamlets within a cluster. So our field staff have to move long distances on foot, because some of the areas are not also suitable for car transport. So just our field staff have been forced to move long distances, like from 4 to 8 kilometers on foot to reach the specified clusters and also within clusters. And the other challenge was, as I mentioned earlier, displacement of communities because of the current drought, especially in Somali region and Oromia regions of the country, and very scattered nature of hamlets within a cluster, which has almost consumed a lot of time for the household listing exercise. And also the communication challenges were also among the major challenges that we faced in the implementation of this project. There were some areas where there is no even mobile network access, so we are not able to communicate with our field staff sometimes, so just we are forced to wait until they call. And they were also facing challenges in synchronizing the data that they have collected because of lack of internet connection and mobile network accesses. So these were the major challenges that we're facing in implementing this project, but we have also taken immediate actions to facilitate the smooth implementation of the project. Among the actions that we have taken, sometimes the field staff, they face difficulty in accessing clusters. So just to support this, we have been preparing the maps of the clusters where the location of the kabeles and also the waradas have been shown, and also with other landmarks like the road access and also the availability of health facilities, schools, and also religious facilities. And because of doing this, we have just improved the accessibility of several clusters. So at least, just our field staff, they could ask the local people on how to access that specific kabale and also respectively the cluster. This has really helped our field staff a lot in improving the data collection process. And also the other action is the regular communication and advising to solve challenge through our Telegram group and also through direct calls. And as we had both qualitative and quantitative data collection, we had used a sequential deployment of our field staff. At least the quantitative team has been deployed earlier, and then later on, once the quantitative team has facilitated some clusters, then we have deployed the qualitative team. So because of that, the qualitative team have completed their surveys very smoothly, and they have completed the data collection, and they have returned it back. And also the other action that we have taken, just since these people were working in remote areas, and also the time was, the Christmas time, so we have made an agreement with the management of Frontieri to incentivize the teams. So we have given some incentive for Christmas celebration, so that really motivated our field staff. And also when there are issues related with the project implementation, we had a morning brief session. During this morning brief, we raise issues, and also we look for solutions and immediate interventions. And also the engagement of the top management of Frontieri in smoothly implementing this project was also really very important for facilitating the project. And the other one is, just the nature of the project, or the challenging nature of the project, was also very much understood by Frontieri's top management team. And even we have, just the project has taken a little bit longer time than expected, and this was also understood, and additional budget even been approved from the top management, so that just this data collection process being completed smoothly. And the other important point is, just the very active cooperation of the World Bank team, especially Obert and Wandemagin. They were always, on board, and they were always supporting us, and they were giving immediate feedbacks, especially when we look for replacement clusters, because some clusters were not reachable. So just they were giving immediate responses, and that really helped us a lot, and we are very much thankful to the World Bank team. And the other most important point is the commitment of our field staff was also really very much appreciable. So because of this, just even though the project is very challenging, we are able to overcome those challenges, and now almost we are at the end of the data collection process for the quantitative survey.